Hello there, and it is so good to have you here with me today. Lately, I have been thinking a lot about gravity. I do not mean the scientific kind that keeps our feet on the ground, but the heavy feeling of the modern world. Everything feels so weighted down right now. The news is heavy, the technology is demanding, and the pace of life feels like it is constantly pulling us downward, asking us to rush, to worry, and to check our phones one more time. I want you to close your eyes for just a second and take a deep breath. Try to recall what it felt like to defy gravity. Picture the feeling of a hot summer afternoon when the only thing that mattered was how high you could jump. I'm talking about that split second of weightlessness at the very top of a bounce where your stomach drops just a little. The wind catches your hair, and for a fleeting moment, you are flying. We did not need virtual reality to feel like we were soaring, and we did not need video games to give us an adrenaline rush. We just needed a patch of canvas, some springs, and the endless energy of youth. I want to take you back to a simpler time, a time when the biggest news in the neighborhood was not a scandal or a crisis, but a brand new way to have fun. So, pour yourself a fresh cup of coffee, settle into your favorite chair, and let us travel back together to the summer of 1960. I have a wonderful piece of history in front of me today. It is a copy of the Sunday Star, printed in Washington, D.C. on a warm Sunday morning, July 24th, 1960. Just imagine holding that paper. It is thick, heavy with Sunday features, and it smells of fresh ink and newsprint. You have probably already read the headlines on the front page and maybe checked the weather, but then you pull out a special section. It is the teen section, a dedicated few pages for and about young people. Right there, splashed across the page in big, bold letters, is a headline that captures the spirit of the era perfectly. It reads, "Trampolines, the Newest Teen Fad." The article, written by a staff writer named Daniel Poole, paints a vivid picture. It says, teenagers are actually jumping for joy and going wild over the country's newest and most exhilarating fad. It goes on to describe this new craze, which allows enthusiasts to bob endlessly skyward, bouncing frenetically on a taut, nylon-webbed mat. Try to picture that scene. The article tells us that this craze is sweeping the nation, just like miniature golf and the hula hoop did before it. It mentions that the very first commercial outdoor center devoted exclusively to trampolining is about to open at the Congressional Shopping Center near Rockville, Maryland, and another one is coming to Wheaton Plaza. It even talks about a private swimming club in Arlington, Virginia, the Northern Virginia Aquatic Club, that had already installed 6 outdoor trampolines. There is a fantastic photo accompanying the story showing a young man named Robert Byerly, a 16-year-old schoolboy champion caught in mid-air, spiraling above the mat. In the background, you can see the wooden fences, the trees, and other kids waiting for their turn. It is a snapshot of pure joy, capturing a moment frozen in time where the only goal was to touch the sky. Let us sit with this for a moment. It was July 1960, right at the turn of the decade. The 50s were officially over, but the cultural revolution of the 60s had not really started yet. It was a sweet, golden hour in American history where Eisenhower was still president and the world felt steady. If you were a teenager or even a young parent in 1960, summer meant being outside. This article talks about trampolines as a fad, which is funny because we saw so many fads back then. You likely remember the hula hoop, which the article mentions specifically. It seems like every summer brought some new physical challenge that swept through the neighborhood. One year it was yo-yos, with kids spinning Walk the Dog and Around the World on every street corner. And another year, it was paddle balls. The trampoline craze was something special because it was something we did together, often at these new jump centers. These commercial jump centers were fascinating places. They were not like the backyard trampolines people have today with the giant safety nets that look like cages. Back then, these were often rows of rectangular trampolines, sometimes set right into the ground over a pit, or just raised up on steel frames. There were no walls around them, so if you fell off, you learned a hard lesson about gravity and asphalt, or, if you were lucky, a patch of grass. We did not worry about that back then, and we were not paralyzed by the fear of a scraped knee. Imagine the sounds of those places. If you went to a center like the one mentioned in Rockville or Wheaton, you would hear the rhythmic boing, boing, boing of the springs stretching and snapping back. It was a mechanical, musical rhythm that became the soundtrack of those summer nights. You would hear the laughter, the shrieks of excitement when someone landed a flip, and the clapping from the friends watching on the sidelines. Think about the atmosphere. These centers were social hubs where you did not just go to exercise, but rather to see and be seen. If you were a teenage boy, this was your stage. You would step onto that mat wearing your canvas Converse All-Stars and maybe a pair of Madras shorts, trying to impress the girls with a backflip or a pike. If you were a girl, maybe wearing pedal pushers or a simple summer dress, you would watch and cheer them on. Or maybe you would get up there and out-jump them all. The article mentions that the bobbing heads of bouncing teenagers can be seen in many places these days. It is a charming image that reminds us entertainment back then was active, and we participated in our fun. We did not sit passively scrolling through a feed of other people living their lives because we were the ones out there living, sweating, and engaged in the physical world. Think about the patience we had back then as well. At these centers, you had to pay by the hour or the half hour, and often you had to wait your turn. You stood in line talking to your friends, drinking a Coke from a glass bottle, and maybe sharing a bag of popcorn. That waiting was not a burden, but rather part of the experience. It was time spent socializing, flirting, and joking around. In modern times, people often get frustrated if a video takes 3 seconds to load. Back then, the anticipation of getting on that mat and having your turn to fly just made the experience sweeter. There is something very wholesome about the idea of a fad like this. It reflects a society that was eager for communal joy. And when something new came along, like miniature golf or trampolines, we all did it. We moved as a community. It was not about isolating yourself in your bedroom, but about going out to the Congressional Shopping Center or the local plaza and being part of the crowd. Shopping centers in 1960 were a new concept and a modern marvel. Wheaton Plaza and Congressional were not just places to buy things, they were the new town squares. They were usually open air with wide sidewalks, and going there was an event. You would dress up a little bit just to go to the plaza, and having a trampoline center right there transformed a shopping trip into an adventure. I also love that this article appeared in a special teen pullout section, showing how the culture was starting to recognize young people as their own distinct group. The teenagers of 1960 were different from the teenagers of today, carrying a respectful innocence about them. Look at Robert Byerly in the photo, who is described as a schoolboy trampoline champion. There is a pride in that title, showing he practiced and worked at it. It was not about a 10-second viral video, but rather about mastering a skill for the sheer satisfaction of doing it well. When we look back at a story like this, it is easy to focus just on the object of the trampoline itself. But I think the nostalgia goes deeper than that. We are nostalgic for the feeling of safety and freedom we had. We are nostalgic for the days when parents felt comfortable dropping their kids off at a trampoline center for the evening, knowing they would be fine. We are nostalgic for the physical exhaustion that came after an hour of jumping. That good, clean tiredness that helped you sleep soundly at night with the windows open and the sound of crickets drifting in. We did not have much in terms of fancy gear or high-tech performance wear. We jumped in our regular clothes, and we lived in our regular clothes. There was a grit to it where we got hot, sweaty, and thirsty. It was wonderful, and it felt completely real. Contrast that with today, where everything is sanitized, padded, insured, and double-checked for liability. If a kid wants to jump on a trampoline now, they have to sign a waiver, wear special socks, and bounce inside a padded fortress. While safety is important, sometimes I wonder if we have lost the thrill of the risk and the lesson that comes from falling down and getting back up. On those old nylon mats, if you did not land right, you scrambled up, brushed yourself off, and tried again. That was a life lesson wrapped in a game. Let us not forget the price either. The article does not mention it, but these places were remarkably cheap. You could have a whole evening of fun for the change in your pocket, teaching us the value of $1 while keeping fun accessible. You did not need a subscription or expensive equipment. You just needed to show up. As I look at this old newspaper clipping, I can almost feel the texture of the nylon webbing under my feet and the rhythm of the bounce. Moving down and up is a rhythm that tells you to keep going and reach higher. It captures a spirit of optimism that defined the early 1960s, where we believed that the sky was the limit. We were looking upward at the stars, at the moon, and at the top of our own jumps. It is nice to remember that we were once that light on our feet, and that there was a time when our biggest concern was keeping our balance. Life has a way of adding weight to our shoulders as the years go by, and we carry responsibilities, memories, losses, and worries. Stories like this remind us that deep down, that young person is still there. They are the one who wants to kick off their shoes, run onto the mat, and just jump for the sheer joy of it. Maybe we cannot do a backflip anymore, and maybe our knees are not what they used to be. But we can still capture that spirit. We can still find moments of weightlessness in our day, whether it is a good laugh with an old friend, a quiet moment watching the birds, or just closing our eyes and remembering the summer of 1960. I would love for you to share your experiences in the comments below. Tell me if you ever visited one of these commercial trampoline centers, or if you had a different fad that you loved, like the hula hoop, the yo-yo, or playing jacks. I want to hear your story. Tell me about the place you went to, who you went with, and what it felt like, so we can fill the comment section with our own history. If this little trip back in time brought a smile to your face, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep this community growing, and I have many more stories from the past that I want to share with you. We're building something special here, a place where we can slow down and remember the good things. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. It is a privilege to share these memories with you. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep those memories bright, and remember that you still have that bounce in your spirit. Bye for now.